Hello, everybody. My name is Matt, and I have 2 degrees, and welcome to a brand new Teacup for One movie marathon. This is an exciting time. It's always fun when we can usher in a new theme, a new slate of movies that are kind of related to one another to discuss. I'm sure you maybe figured it out by looking at the title of this video in today's chat, but today we are kicking off the presidential movie marathon. Yeah, it's an entire month of movies about presidents and the presidency, the institution. Now, some of these movies, it's a mix. It's a mix of some movies about fictional presidents. It's a mix of some films about real life historical presidents. There's even some movies about like where presidents don't show up at all, but about like people and their reaction to the presidency and its place in history. It just, as a Canadian who knows nothing about politics, one would question why I decided to make this month's theme. I do too, but maybe it's because I'm a Canadian who is also very politically unaware that I find the whole thing so fascinating. Like when I go to Disney World, I love the Hall of Presidents. Don't ask me why. Maybe it's because it's like 20 minutes of air conditioning where I can just zone out and look at a bunch of robots that are very well dressed, but I love doing that. So just something about the historical element mixed in with the actual people and the characters, like the real life characters that move in and out of this position. It's fascinating to me. And so we're going to watch movies about it all this month, leading up to, well, I mean, not leading up to the elections in November, but all of this month, we're going to do president movies. And then in October, we'll do scary movies. One could say that some president movies and scary movies are the same thing. Not me, not me. But here we go. So, what was I going to say? I can't remember. Yeah, President Month. Oh, yeah, tonight's film, we are kicking things off with Lee Daniels' The Butler. Now, I wasn't sure exactly what film to kick off this marathon with, so I was doing some digging and yeah, just kind of based on the log line alone. That was why I figured this should be the movie to open things up. It's a film that I had not seen before this evening. And just to give you a little bit, what's this? Just to give you a little bit of a sense of what this film is about, it stars. Let me pull up the cast. Well, it stars like everybody, but yeah, it stars Forrest Whitaker as a butler who serves the president for roughly 30 years, 34 years, according to my labor-intensive Wikipedia research. And over that time, you get to see him interacting with various presidents, just kind of like little blips on the radar. But I think what the film does really well is it gives you just enough one-on-one interactions with the presidents, and kind of alongside that you see his personal life, his home life, the real life dramas that his family is going through, specifically his son who becomes a part of the civil rights movement. And there's a lot of fascinating stuff there. And I do think it's a good film to kick off this month because it very much focuses on the second half of the 20th century, what was happening with the presidents, what was happening politically. And I think it gives you a nice balanced look at the institution of the presidency alongside people, like regular people in America, and how one coincides with the other. But we'll get into it. Before we get there, let's see who we have joining us in the chat today. I think I see some familiar cats. Literally, my cats are here. So this is Eliza, I believe. No, this is Sabrina. Sorry. Sabrina did not watch the movie, but she's going to watch us. Thank you, Sabrina. Eliza did not watch the movie because she's not interested in politics and she would rather do drugs. Catnip. So that's what Eliza is going to do. It makes sense. And it's my mom. And according to Martha, she's going to decide if she will watch this movie based... Oh, wait, that was Sabrina. There we go. She's going to decide if she's going to watch the movie based on our chat tonight. So the pressure is on. We've also got Vince here from Only Time Will Tell. If presidents had cats instead of dogs, Eliza and Sabrina would have watched it for sure. Not wrong. Has there ever been a president with a cat? And is it like a legal requirement for the president to have a dog? That's something. That there should be a movie about all the pets in the White House. I would watch that. Anyway, let's bring in our first person for this evening. It's Jeanette, everybody. Woot.
Hello.
Jeanette. Welcome to President Month.
Thank you. As the resident American on this episode, at least.
I think for most of them.
Yeah, I think for most of them. So yeah, I hope America's comfortable with me speaking on its behalf.
Please do. Please do. Yeah. Speak on behalf of me. I would vote for Jeanette as president.
Oh boy. Well, you're not sane. But that's don't do that. Don't do that.
Okay. It's a country I'd be happy to live in. I'd be happy to live in.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a really fun opening question because I'm like, I don't want to open every episode with who's your favorite president? Because,
We could do it this time.
could
That's
we?
fine.
Could we? I don't know, but I guess I don't have an answer because I don't know enough about them to know who my favorite would be.
Well, you've lived during you're my age, so
Oh yeah.
you've lived during a
Clinton, Bush.
Bush. Technically, were we still no, just Bush. I was thinking, were we babies when Reagan was in? No,
I don't
maybe.
I think Reagan was like I think Reagan
Anyway,
came of office
a
around
Bush,
born.
a Clinton, another Bush,
Yeah.
an Obama, and then now we're here.
Now we're here.
And yeah, uh, no, there was a Biden in there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was a Biden. There was. It was,
Yep.
it was fun. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I really only started to pay attention and become aware of presidents and the presidency probably actually around Obama. Before that, again, I'm very politically unaware. I had heard,
No Clinton jokes in the 90s.
well, like I knew about Clinton jokes. I knew about the
Okay.
whole controversy and like the names. I knew about I knew who Monica Lewinsky was. I knew Bill,
Okay.
Hillary, all the things, but like politically, I had no sense of what he did. Still kind of don't.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe I'll learn through the movies. But there we go.
Probably.
Yeah. But I guess actually, who is your favorite president from before our lifetime?
Before our lifetime.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I was growing up, I would have told you Andrew Jackson. I think we've learned some things about him where I think we're just not supposed to like white people before a certain time period.
Makes
But
sense.
when I was growing up, Andrew Jackson was portrayed to me as a president of the people. He would let the people into the White House to party, and he would have parties on the front lawn, and he was Southern. And so, yeah, and not Southern in that sort of way. Like he just came from the South, which at that point was not common or that. So anyway, he was just portrayed as being fun and fun loving. If I had to pick a modern one from before my time, like maybe my parents' time period, I always think that Ford is awfully hilarious because he didn't do anything and he was a goofball and he was kind of ridiculous. So, like, if you look up clips of Gerald Ford, it's ridiculous. It's nonsense. I don't know what happened at that. I think it's like the mid to late 70s or something. It's nonsense time. Yeah, it was nothing. So he kind of cracks me up.
I love that. I adore that. I want to look up Gerald Ford stuff now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find when I think about previous presidents, kind of like I alluded to or touched on at the beginning in my intro, what I find more engaging or interesting is just the legacy that's left behind by either how people remember them or by certain things. So by that merit, I find Nixon interesting.
Yes.
Yeah,
Awfully.
not a favorite. But maybe a favorite in terms of who I am the most engaged by from a historical lens, looking back.
Sure, yeah. Lots of good one-liners.
Yeah, he's not a crook. He's not a crook. And I keep thinking to that movie Dick with your two favorite actors, with Kirsten Dunst and Michelle Williams.
Oh yeah.
Where they become the presidential dog walkers. And that was
I need to give that one another try because I remember liking it.
It's hilarious. I rewatched it a year or two ago, right after watching All the President's Men, which is a really serious look at the Watergate situation.
Mhm.
And having that as a double feature, which I didn't think to program for this marathon, probably should have. It's too late now. But having that as a double feature is hilarious because Dick is kind of a full out parody of that movie, which is so funny.
All the President's Men was definitely a school movie. They'd put that on for us when we were studying that.
School movie. It's a good school movie.
Yeah.
Nice. Anyway, there we go. Oh yeah, who's my favorite? Oh, I said Nixon. I don't want to make a soundbite though that could be taken out of context. Where I'm like, my favorite president is Nixon, but I just did it. So.
Oh, that's okay. There's plenty of Americans who are still alive who would say that too.
Probably. I'm also really interested in Kennedy. Not so much again for what he did, just the
legacy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much lore. There's just lore. Yeah, exactly.
Fascinating lore, like with Oswald plus Monroe, Marilyn, and singing "Happy Birthday." I'm like, yeah.
Even my favorite musician, Marilyn Manson, has an album that the concept is all kind of wrapped around the Kennedy American lore.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, so it's influenced a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah, in Canada, our prime ministers don't really have anything nearly as interesting as any of this. Maybe we do. No, not really. Not really. I mean, we had Trudeau the first and now Trudeau the second. They're kind of interesting.
Everybody down here was pretty interested in Trudeau, your most recent Trudeau.
Yeah, I think it's because of the family name, because the first Trudeau kind of stirred the pot a little bit, specifically because in one interview he said, "Just watch me," and that was a big deal. They were like, "How far are you going to go on this issue?" And he's like, "Just watch me." Then he walked away. And yeah, I can't remember what the issue was. I'm not a very good Canadian in that way either. When I said I'm a politically unaware Canadian, I didn't just mean for America. I meant for everything.
Everything.
Let's bring in probably a more politically aware Canadian. Joining us tonight from Only Time Will Tell, we have Vince, everybody.
Hey, everybody. You know, the Just Watch Me thing. Are you hearing me right?
Yeah.
I'm coming in good.
Yeah,
the Just Watch Me thing, I think, was the FLQ crisis.
That's what it was. Thank you. Yes.
The La Frontière de Libération de Quebec. Yeah, yo. I don't know. I've got a few interesting videos about, I've got one interesting video about prime ministers or a potential prime minister on my channel. So if you want to, check out dig up some dirt on Justin Trudeau or Pierre Poilievre.
I do.
Vince has the tea.
Yes, Vince, please deliver the prime minister adjacent content that gives me the same tabloid fodder that I love from watching American.
Oh, it's all here. It's all here on Only Time Will Tell. Okay, I got my headphones on. I am ready to go. Sorry, I'm late, everybody.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. So, Vince, the opening question was, who's your favorite president? But more specifically, before your lifetime. Like, not necessarily it could be political, but I don't want so much to say who's your favorite president from your lifetime for like political reasons, but in terms of the legacy, the lore, anything. Yeah.
Well, I heard Jeanette, you mentioned Old Hickory. So I can't. No, didn't you bring up Andrew Jackson?
Andrew Jackson. I didn't know is that a name?
That's his nickname. They called him that since he was a kid.
Feed us that one.
That's nice. Okay.
Old Hickory. No, not a big Jackson fan, but I like Abraham Lincoln. You know, he did a few good things, I recall.
He supported the theater.
He supported the theater. He until the day he died, I understand. An avid theater goer.
Yeah.
If you could go back in time and convince Lincoln not to enjoy theater, would you do it, knowing it would preclude his assassination?
That's a good question.
You don't know that, though. That guy was wacko. He would have found him anywhere.
Oswald would have. Oswald was the other one. Booth would have found him. Booth would have found him.
You got. It sounds like you need to rewatch Assassins. Brush up on your.
No. I know it is sad. A lot of my foundational knowledge for American history comes from Assassins. It's not the perspective you want, which is also the reason I wanted to do this marathon.
Right. It's better than some people have in America. So
I mean, I feel like Booth didn't sing with Oswald. Like, I don't think they had a jaunty little number in a carnival.
No, but
missed opportunity.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like Lincoln. What about has anyone mentioned what's that guy's name? Van Buren.
Van Buren?
Yeah, Martin Van Buren.
I don't think anybody mentions Van Buren.
In Seinfeld, there's a fictitious street gang called the Van Buren Boys. And they took their name from President Van Buren.
Martin Van Buren, yes.
One of the lesser known.
Oh, he was number 8. No one
Yeah.
cares about the
Oh.
president from
He
like
was like close to
Tuesday.
Hamilton and stuff. Like he probably, yeah.
Yeah, no one. I
Probably
mean,
met
I'll care about
Hamilton when he
him
was a little
Hudson
kid.
Hawk musical, but until then,
Dwight Eisenhower famously railed against the military-industrial complex in his farewell speech, and that's an iconic moment in history. I guess Eisenhower wasn't that bad. The Korean War was pretty rough, but maybe it was unavoidable. I don't know.
There's a lot of lore behind Eisenhower too. So
is Eisenhower Robin Williams?
Yes.
Okay.
There's an American Horror Story like I didn't know was a conspiracy theory, something about aliens with Eisenhower.
What?
Yeah,
Vince, what do you
like,
know?
What is this like an overlap with Roswell, New Mexico?
Yeah, exactly. So like,
oh my god,
yeah, there's an American Horror Story storyline about it. So yeah, Eisenhower has pretty cool lore too.
Like a whole season, or just like
part of a season?
Ooh.
Yeah, like it leads into
Awesome.
it, in and out of it. Yeah,
love that. All right, well, let's talk about this movie, which does not have aliens in it, unfortunately, but lots of stuff, lots of serious issues. So here we go. Lee Daniels is The Butler. Evidently, that is the full title. You can't just call it The Butler because of legal reasons. I found out there's seemingly another movie called The Butler, and whatever studio owned the rights to that, they negotiated and said you can keep The Butler as your title, but Lee Daniels is The Butler has to be whatever, and his name has to be like 75% the size of The Butler, so that it doesn't conflict. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, I that made me feel a little bit better because I thought it was just a vanity move. Shows the gods.
Yeah, I was like, "Ooh, who's Lee Daniels? Am I supposed to know who that is?"
Well, I mean, I think he based on this, he makes good movies, so we should know him.
I guess so.
Yeah. I feel like he's done a lot of other really good stuff.
I remember when this movie came out, everyone that was like a selling feature of the movie. They're like, "Oh, it's Lee Daniels, the Butler," and but before and since, I don't recall like him doing any standout pieces. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd love to see like his entire oeuvre.
Did the United States versus Billie Holiday, which I think
okay
awards. Although maybe it was a miniseries. Yeah, he did that. What else? No, actually, I don't really recognize any of these other things. What's The Deliverance?
Oh, that's new. That's coming out soon, I believe.
That's him. He did The Deliverance. So there you go.
Hang on, they didn't make him call it Lee Daniels Deliverance.
No, because it's The Deliverance. I actually did think it was a remake of Deliverance, and I was like, "How's this gonna work?" But yeah.
Well, anyway, Lee Daniels is The Butler. Let's do a rapid fire 30-second recap. So 30 seconds, please give us your synopsis of the film. I'll go first. I don't really ever get to do these. So here we go. I'm going to set the timer. 30 seconds. No, not 30 seconds to Mars. 30 seconds. 30-second timer. All right. Yes. All right. How do I make this timer go? There we are. Start. There we go. So Lee Daniels is The Butler. This is a movie about a butler, and he serves presidents from Eisenhower through to Reagan. Alongside serving them, he is also trying to do his due diligence as a family man and build a better life for his family than the one that he had growing up in the South, because when he was a small child, he witnessed his father being murdered in cold blood, and he doesn't want that for his kids, but one of his kids is really politically active and is like, no, I want to stop this. And that's okay. There we go. That's my synopsis. Let's do Jeanette. Jeanette, ready? Go.
All right. So Lee Daniels is The Butler is a story that shows how close in time we are between slavery and now, and how little has changed or how much has changed, depending on how you watch the movie. And it is also a stark revelation to show you maybe another side of a side of this that you have not seen. It's assumed that all people that were fighting for freedom wanted freedom, and some people were in a different time period.
Very nice. Vince, your turn. Go.
So you got Forrest Whitaker, right? One of the greatest actors of our time. He's married to Oprah Winfrey, one of the richest people on the planet. And together they're madly in love. He works in the White House. You know, he serves food and water and he's taking care of business. And there are many instances where he acts as a political advisor in some way, you know. And you have a bunch of miscasted presidents, except Liev Schreiber was pretty good, I think. And it's good. It's good. It's a good movie. It didn't blow me away, but it's solid. Lee Daniels, Danny Strong, the Butler.
Well said. All right, now, had anyone seen this movie before watching it for this? No? Okay, fresh eyes. Here we go. Vince, what was your first impression of this film?
I was worried I was going to be bored, and I wasn't bored, but it did feel like a 2-hour movie, and that's what it is. So it's good. Not too long, not too short. I liked it, you know, and it had a good message. It made me feel when I was supposed to feel. I laughed when I was supposed to laugh. And come on, Forrest Whitaker is one of the greats.
Agreed. Jeanette?
Yeah, I had never seen it before. I had wanted to watch it. I remember it being up for awards, and the cast blew me away. The miscast presidents were not horrible. They were distracting at first, and then each of them, it became abundantly clear why they had been chosen for that particular role. I think it was to save money in the makeup department, because in the end, a lot of them, other than John Cusack, well, I don't know where that one came from, but all the other ones ended up kind of making sense in my eyes after about 2 minutes, you know? It's like adjusting to a magic guy thing. I was like, yes, I see it. I see the sailboat. But I liked this movie. I actually liked it more than I had expected. I did not know what to expect. I literally didn't know anything about this other than it was a civil rights movement based film. Other than that, I didn't know. I did appreciate, we'll get into it. We'll get into what we liked about the film. But yes, I ended up liking this movie even more than I expected, and I expected to like it to some degree. So.
Yeah, I agree. I enjoyed it. Well, no, I think I thought I would enjoy it, and I did enjoy it. I felt like the pace moved pretty decently. Like it didn't take a long time for it to be interesting. Like I was engaged pretty well right off the top. And I think the pacing is really good in my mind, especially like that's a testament to the film, considering how much time it spans. It never really feels rushed. And even for someone like me, as I've said, who doesn't have much knowledge about all of these periods of history, I was never super confused. Like it laid things out in such a way where I could put together what was happening easily enough and get like a pretty decent American history lesson in the span of 2 hours with decent performances. The casting I am interested to touch on and talk about, but I want to say I was surprised, but at the same time I wasn't. But I was surprised at how much of the film took place outside of the walls of the White House. I think I was expecting a lot more of the focus to be on the interactions or non-interactions between Cecil and all the presidents, but I much prefer the direction it went in. Like I liked just seeing little snippets of interactions with the actual president, and I think those scenes were all very smartly crafted. And decently performed. But let's get into what we liked about the film. Like, what do we think worked?
I think that this film did one of the things I like, where they did not overdo the time periods as far as the clothing. We got into it a little bit, but it wasn't like blast you in the face with like what time period it is.
Yeah.
I like when people don't overdo that. And then I think that maybe aside from one or two presidents, I think all of the casting worked. A lot of times when Oprah's in things, I'm very distracted by the fact that it's Oprah, and I wasn't. I don't know if that was just me personally, but I wasn't.
It was Oprah just because it was Oprah, but I was also distracted pleasantly at how good I thought the acting was. Oprah never
Yeah.
doesn't strike me as a good actor. She strikes me as a decent actor. Like I think
Who needs the right role?
yeah, like Color
Yeah.
Purple, I think she was appropriate for, and she did a good job. But yeah, she delivered in a way I didn't expect in this role, and I was
Yeah.
really impressed. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the acting obviously has to carry this, or else I think this story could be too intense, maybe.
Yeah. Vince, what do you think worked?
I think the script was tight. We have a good screenplay from Danny Strong. And I think this is the first Danny Strong screenplay I've seen, or film I've seen that uses him as a writer. I'm most familiar with his acting on Gilmore Girls. He played a recurring character, and that, very likable. He had a strong presence, and yeah, he churned out a pretty good script here. It's tight. The pacing's good, as you mentioned. I believe it's an adaptation of a book.
Yeah.
It's an adaptation of an article.
An article.
An
Really?
article.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was.
How
a book.
long's
I was
this
like, I really want to
article?
read this book.
I think it was like a New York Times article. This is a thing that kind of surprised me. I thought it was a biopic about Cecil, but it's not. He's fictional, but
Yes.
he's based on a man who was a butler for that duration of time.
Does that mean what it means by inspired by a true story?
Yeah. So like everything about his family life and his sons was invented or fictionalized, which was a little disappointing for me because that's what I found the most interesting. But I guess that's why, because I say they made it up. It's based on obviously like real people and real events, but just consolidated to all happen under one roof in one household. Yeah, the article I believe was about kind of what's depicted in the last chunk of the movie, how this African-American man who was a butler for years was around to witness the inauguration of Obama. And I think maybe the article was about him going to meet Obama, or no, it was about him and his wife getting ready to vote. And then she died like right before voting day. And
shit.
Wow.
yeah, but he was sad, and but it was still had the message of hope, and more or less it was focused on that. It was like, here's this man who served in the White House for years, and now he gets to witness Obama being put into the White House. And more or less that is what was the seed for this film.
Did the article also mention that his wife was stepping out on him with Terrence Howard? Because I was wondering if that issue ever got resolved.
I was wondering that too. I don't know if it was.
It's the I think it's the correct time period. Isn't it? It wouldn't Hustle and Flow cross over with this? Does it?
Yeah, that's very possible. I think Hustle and Flow might have been like 2011, and I think this is like 2013. Maybe, I'm not sure.
Hustle and Flow is way earlier than that. Like, yeah, but the time period it's based in, I'm saying maybe
it was 2005.
Because it was like the 70s or whatever.
Oh, so you're saying that
the two universes,
Terrence Howard's character, yeah. Oh my goodness.
No, he's number running, and he's having women step out on their husbands. Yeah, no, I thought that was an interesting bit. They only like touched on it for like a second, and then it was done. I felt like it was supposed to make us like her more, and I was like, I don't know, maybe, I don't know.
I feel like we didn't get as much of her as I wanted, but I feel like we did at the same time. I don't know, there was just something that seemed like it was missing, specifically the scene when Candy was assassinated and she says, "Oh, I'm sorry about the president, but I don't care what happens to the White House. I care what happens in this house." I feel like I didn't get as much of the domestic squabbling as I would have liked, or a sense of, oh, he's working too much. I guess it's not hard to.
I think we were supposed to realize that he really wasn't, like, he was working a lot, but like that she was also having a skewed view because she was drinking. So like, I think we were supposed to understand that like things just weren't right. I don't know. Yeah, I kept feeling like she was kind of coming at him when she didn't need to be.
Yeah. Like he was just doing his job, and he didn't really seem like that much of a workaholic. And I don't know, that
they had a really cute house.
They did.
Yeah.
I'd love that house. I want that house. Yeah, but I mean, granted, he did work.
Be nice.
Although
one thing
but yeah,
I'd like to kind of point out that I thought was interesting. at the beginning of the film when he's out in the field with his family, it's in the mid-20s, early to mid-20s, and so a lot of people, I think maybe especially maybe people from outside of the country might be like, but hey, isn't that a good like almost 60 years after the Civil War? Like, shouldn't that not be happening? And I think the thing that maybe they don't show here, obviously, because it depends. I forget, where was he, in Mississippi? Was that where he was at?
I think they said Georgia, but
Georgia. Okay, it was Georgia. You're right. So like, I don't know what the difference was between there and Louisiana, but like in 1928, my grandmother was born, and even in the 30s when she was a little kid, she was a sharecropper with her family and used to pick cotton in fields shoeless. So like, it was not confined at those time periods racially. It was a class thing, but obviously because of the racial inequality,
yeah,
people of color were in a lower, but like there were other people in that too. And there was like kind of this servitude thing going on in general, unfortunately. So that kind of, when I saw that kind of made me think about the things my grandmother used to tell me. Like she was like, I didn't really own my own pair of shoes until I was like almost a teenager. She didn't have like they shared shoes in the house, and they picked cotton for somebody to pay them for. Like they got money for it, but they didn't own the farm. They just worked there. So yeah, I mean that specific scene, I think to me that was the thing. I'm like, oh, you're starting this movie showing how not far removed we are from this time period. Like you're going to show us this guy just worked for a few presidents and here we are in modern day, you know?
Yeah.
And this happened at the beginning. This is in one person's lifetime. I think it kind of makes it really stark. Like, oh, it's not been that long, but also more should be done.
Yeah, that scene was really interesting from my perspective. Just, again, knowing that abolition would have happened, yeah, like you said, roughly 50, 60 plus years prior, but it still very much felt like it was of that time period.
Yeah. No enforcement of it. Nobody's making anybody do anything.
Or I guess what really threw me was that someone could just be murdered point blank and no one was batting an eye at it, which I would, maybe it's an optimistic or an ignorant view, would have liked to think that that is what you didn't have anymore when, like, post-abolition, like in a post-slavery world. I would think you can't just kill people.
No, this movie showed you that you didn't have that till about the 60s or 70s. And even then, you better hope you're in the right place in the country.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, why was Mariah Carey the mom? That was...
I don't know. Thank God she didn't have to talk much, though. She did a great job.
Yeah. Yeah, she did. She did. Yeah, I wanted to...
She played crazy really well. She did really good at that.
I had a note, but I can't remember what it was now. But yeah, I wanted to talk, I guess, about that the idea of servitude. I found really interesting as a through line, specifically when he has his interview with Colton Domingo, and I can't remember what the character's name was, but the first
Coleman.
Coleman.
Yeah.
Coleman. I thought it was Colton.
Academy Award nominee Coleman Domingo.
One day he'll be a winner. I love him.
One day. Rustin was a good movie.
So, well, he was the only good thing in Color Purple. Well, him and Danielle Brooke. But I have adored everything that he's been in, including this. But yeah, the scene when he's interviewing him, and then he just kind of drops his guard for a second and is like, "Yeah, he'll be a good house servant." Well, he says a different word, but I'm not going to say it. But just, I found that so telling that seemingly the whole institution of the presidency was still experiencing, I don't know, not even after effects. There were still remnants of that era of servitude, of like African Americans serving the person in power. Like the dynamic was exactly the same as when he was a kid, and Vanessa Redgrave, or Lynn, one of the Redgraves, was like, "I'm going to teach you how to be a servant. Come into the house," and everything that she's teaching him just carries over perfectly. And that's something I found really interesting. Is like this, this antiquated system is present in the White House, which Of course it is. But yeah.
There was something absolutely horrifying about that this poor kid has to serve mashed potatoes to the guy who murdered his father.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was rough. But like, I guess in the long run, he got a good job out of it. But good Lord, there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of trauma that Cecil experienced in his childhood that, obviously affects him for the rest of his life. And I think, it clearly has to do with his relationship with his own son, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I just wish there was mental health resources available to, people more readily in those days.
Agreed.
That's all. That's my take on that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of resources they could have used.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's interesting again because like you have something as recently as like the stuff that came out against Paula Deen, the famous culinary figure, like in the late 80s, she hired a company to cater an event and was like, I would like all of the attendees serving the hors d'oeuvres to be Black, and they must wear white tuxedos.
Oh God.
And the theme of the party was the antebellum period. And so like you're still dealing with stuff like that far in the future. And it's like there is this ingrained in the culture, obviously even the presidents, because there's like they are showing you there's this grand party culture and there's this whole like prestige associated with it. And it's like it still moved, and they show you into the 80s they were still putting an emphasis on this being like a thing, and even in my lifetime, like I certainly remember going down to the French Quarter and seeing brunches in the morning and there's somebody standing outside with a tray of drinks, and like that's fine, but when I was a kid there was always one type of person that was holding the tray of drinks. As I got older that changed, thank God. But yeah, I think that this movie did a really good job of showing why it was so ingrained in culture, or how it got so ingrained that even the president, even the White House, even, it was bizarre. And I do love that they pointed out that stuff about the Kennedys. They do get all this mystique surrounding them, but it's like they were not on a civil rights platform when they got into the White House. That was not their goal. They weren't looking to upset any status quos.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
They weren't out here trying to make peace. He did a good job, and then he suffered for it, and he really did end up being like somewhat of a martyr for the cause. But
yeah, it's fair to say he didn't get elected because of any progressive campaign promises. He got elected because he was drop dead gorgeous, especially in a TV debate next to Dick Nixon.
I do love that they got freaking James Marsden to play him. It was like, hell yes, please.
I don't know.
That's he could have been in Playgirl with the Kennedy getup. Like, it could have been the James Marsden Kennedy spread. It was ridiculous.
I do think when he first appeared, I'm like, oh, they got James Marsden to play Bobby Kennedy. That's great. Oh no, he's playing John? What?
I feel like they didn't put that much effort into making him look like JFK.
They didn't put a lot of effort into making anybody look like anybody.
That's true.
That's what I'm saying. I think they got people who, like, with a little bit of makeup, resembled the person. Like I said, in a Magic Eye way, the only one, no matter how many times I squinted or closed my eyes, John Cusack is not Nixon. When they said Nixon's second term and he's on the couch, I go, oh, he was supposed to be Nixon this whole time? Oh no.
Oh, you didn't clock that he was Nixon when he came in with the little buttons?
No, I was like, oh, this must be some associate to Nixon and we're not going to see Nixon. But no, this is Nixon.
Yeah, no, I only knew because I looked at the cast list prior. I wonder though, if I didn't have that knowledge, if I would have clocked that it was Nixon.
Oh
Probably.
My God, he was the only one I couldn't like figure it out. I was like, come on.
And I was a little disappointed because they show us a little news clip of Jimmy Carter, and it's just Jimmy Carter. I'm like, oh no, we're just gonna skip Jimmy. Yes, I want a bad cast for Jimmy Carter.
I thought that was hilarious.
Give me Gene Hackman, Jimmy Carter.
Maybe he didn't sign off on it. Maybe he wouldn't sign off on it. Because
Maybe.
you figure, what year was this made? He was still coherent
This was
at that
2013.
point.
But they skipped a few, didn't they? Like, they skipped a few
They
presidents.
skipped Gerald Ford, but
They didn't do Ford. I told you
Yeah.
he means nothing. He means nothing in the annals of time. They skipped Ford and they skipped Carter. I felt so bad for Carter. I was like, oh, he's so sweet. They couldn't have done Carter. What the hell? Oh man, I would have loved a Carter. Could have gotten like a Christopher Lloyd or something. I don't know.
oh
Somebody.
my goodness, that would have been good.
Somebody cool.
Well,
I don't know why I want Doc Brown, Jimmy Carter.
but I would want him to play it as Doc Brown playing Jimmy Carter.
Jimmy Carter. Well, Jimmy Carter's famous for being a Southern peanut farmer. So I would want him to just throw on the Southern charm and just talk about peanuts. So, and he smiled all the time. He did so much. Oh God, he did so much good civil rights stuff. He did. Was it under Carter or was it under Ford? I'm trying to. One of them let Jonestown happen. So after many red flags.
I feel like Cecil bringing him a peanut butter sandwich, and he's like, I grew up on a peanut farm.
Yes, exactly.
I farmed peanuts for a living.
It'd be great. Gary Busey. That'd be wonderful.
Carter? Oh,
That's Jimmy Carter.
Ford. He could have been
Maybe.
Ford.
Oh my gosh.
Chevy Chase used to do Ford on SNL.
Oh, really?
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Like way back,
Imagine if we had Chevy Chase. What a film.
That would have been funny.
What a film it would have been. Well, yeah, let's dive more into casting, because that is one of the things I wanted to discuss in this film. Because at first glance, that was one of the things that really excited me about this movie was look at this star-studded cast. But then also as the movie progressed and just new people showed up, it almost became comical for me watching. Like, okay, now it's James Marsden. Here we go. Oh, and now Snape is Reagan.
Was one of his friends Lenny Kravitz?
Yes.
Was that?
Yeah, that was Lenny Kravitz.
The whole time I was like, that guy looks like Lenny Kravitz. Get out of here! And I didn't check. I just realized that. I was like, wait, was that Lenny Kravitz?
And I had the same thing. Well, a similar thing with Jane Fonda as Nancy. As soon as she showed up, of course it's Jane Fonda.
It was Nancy just Jane Fonda too.
I like that she was kind of being underhanded about it a little bit too, because I was like, she was playing this like a mild, like undercover villain. When he was like, and I knew we weren't there for anything but looks. And I was like, that's right, the Reagans. You just tell them.
Well, what's that about? Again, I know nothing really about the Reagans. Would that have been
so the Reagans let the AIDS crisis flourish after many ways that they could have intervened, but they didn't want to acknowledge it was a real thing. Remind you of anybody? So that happened under them, and then also there was just a lot of ignoring things and shutting things down. Like they tried to shut down welfare. And like they were just basically like they were around and kind of propagated that whole cliche about like welfare moms and stuff, like but basically being people of color. And yeah, they didn't do anything good for any minorities stereotypes.
Oh, they also they vamped up the war on drugs too.
Oh, he was the war on drugs. Reagan was the war on drugs. Yeah.
Did he start the terminology, or was it Nixon?
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like it was Reagan. I could be wrong about that, but he definitely popularized it, and that was the whole anti-drug movement, as far as like overdoing it, as far as jail sentences for marijuana and stuff like that. So like, yeah. And Nancy was out here, she was reading to the children. Sure. That's great. She read to the kids.
Saturday morning cartoons, she showed up. We were shown VHS tapes in Canada of American anti-drug PSAs, and Nancy Reagan shows up at the beginning. And
I didn't get those.
Oh, it must have been after your time. This was like 97, 98. We were like,
that's hilarious.
We were 6 or 7, and they had to explain to us who Nancy Reagan is.
Yeah, I'm like, what? You'd have to explain to an American child at that point, I would think. Yeah, no, they put on airs about a lot of things, And so that made sense. I was like, oh, they're really trying to make him look good. And then they were like, no, it's just for show. I was like, oh, yeah, that's about right.
Interesting.
Again, this is one American's opinion who was not a valid human during Reagan's presidency. So take this all with a grain of salt.
But still, that is very good context for me, again, as a politically unaware Canadian. But what was this name? Oh, yeah. So do we think this movie had to have such a star-studded cast, or was it distracting? Because I started to find it distracting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think what year did this come out? 2011?
2013, I believe.
2013? Okay. I don't know. I mean, I feel like that was kind of par for the course. Maybe that was towards the end of that whole type of film where they were doing these star-studded for every single thing. But I think it got butts in the seats. I do think at some point, yes, it becomes distracting. And I start wondering how many of these people look like the real people. But now finding out that they're not all real people, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, I keep thinking back to James Marsden as Kennedy, whereby I feel like, and maybe I'm probably giving too much credit to Lee Daniels as the Butler and Lee Daniels and his casting folks, but it almost seems like they cast James Marsden with the intention of, he doesn't look like Kennedy, but here's someone who is equally as good looking to give you, as an audience member in 2013, a sense of like what this person was like. Like 2013 audiences all know James Marsden, and he makes audiences feel a certain type of way to see him on screen, and like equate that with Kennedy. It gives you a context that makes it make sense as an audience member. And I question if maybe, well, that probably wasn't even the intention. It was probably just James Marsden was available and said yes. But I'd like to think that that was the intention with some of the casting choices. And I don't know, I feel like Jane Fonda as Nancy Reagan is a similar thing. Like, just knowing who Jane Fonda is, I feel like she brings the right vibe to it so that you can right away associate this is who this is. Yeah.
I never realized that Alan Rickman does look a lot like Reagan until they put him in a situation where he was supposed, and then I was like, oh, yeah, he kind of does.
It's just because he's that good an actor. He can change his face.
He did a good job. Yeah. Exactly. The voice, I don't know about that. I was still like, yeah, that's Rickman. But yeah.
Right. But who was everyone's favorite casting choice in the film? And least favorite? Well, no, let's do favorite first. I won't get to least favorite. Who was your favorite casting choice? Whether for president or non-president? No, actually, okay, several questions here. Favorite casting choice for a president, because I think that's a good isolated thing to start with. Mm-hmm.
Mine is Eisenhower or Robin Williams for Eisenhower. I kind of just wanted a whole Robin Williams Eisenhower movie at that point.
Now, like, how much do we know about Eisenhower in terms of what he was like? Is there video or film footage of him? Like, how
there is. He didn't have a ton of personality. He wasn't, he wasn't one of those. I would say he was kind of just, I don't know. He's kind of wimpy.
Well,
for lack of a better word,
he got political success because he was a prominent general in World War II.
There you go.
So, like, I don't know. He was a big tough guy. Maybe a mix of shrimpy and tough, but like he had a certain calmness about him. But I highly recommend everyone watch his departing speech, where he's railing against the military-industrial complex, which, if left unchecked, will take America over. And decide for yourself if that has unfolded in that way.
It's valid.
Hang on, what was the question again? I liked Liev Schreiber. Liev Schreiber was a great LBJ.
As Lyndon B.
LBJ's a funny character in the sense he was thrust into power, and I remember I watched a documentary about him, and apparently he was very unsure of himself. He thought no one liked him because, obviously he wasn't elected. And he did delegate tasks from the toilet on many occasions. That's American canon right there.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. So, again, stupid question from me not knowing things. Was he ever elected, or did he just get the job because Nixon left?
No,
he got the job because JFK got shot.
JFK. Oh, I thought he was
God.
Yeah, there we go. So, Yeah,
because
so,
he was running against JFK in the Democratic primaries, and then
okay.
JFK won, and then offered him vice presidency to like win his guys over to make sure they don't vote for Nixon.
Fair.
Yeah,
Huh. So they do you just finish the term then post JFK, and then they elected whoever came next? Is that
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Then Nixon won. Nixon wiped the floor with that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, Nixon? I think John Cusack as Nixon might be my favorite president in this movie.
I was like, they just made a fat John Cusack. Like they didn't. I was like, I don't understand how this makes. Like Nixon's not even known for being big. I don't understand this.
He didn't strike me as bigger. Like
He's also not known for having a painfully adorable face. Like I was like, how do you take John Cusack with one of the most adorable faces ever and make him one of the like weirdest, hideous looking people? I don't understand.
I appreciated what he did with the voice, because I'm so accustomed to Nixon parodies. Like it's so easy to make fun of him that I appreciated how it felt, at least vocally, not like it was John Cusack, whatever. But yeah, vocally, the cadence, the intonation, everything felt like a grounded, real version of this type of person that just like is so often and is so easy to make fun of, kind of similar to a more current president, as it were. That I think caricaturizing them is the easy route, and being able to make it seem more or less like an actual human is something that's
Yeah.
like I feel like he probably had the hardest president to embody. Maybe no,
He had the most done one.
Yeah.
So that was why I felt it ballsy that they did any of the things they did or didn't do. I was like, everybody's done a Nixon.
That is true. And actually, I wonder if that's why the two times we see him, it's in very private situations. Like,
And they had to make him like sloppy drunk in one of them. I was like, it's like that's an excuse why he doesn't have the nose.
what? The nose?
Nixon's nose is like very noticeable.
Yeah, they could have made that nose a little bigger. They should have took Bradley Cooper's nose from Bernstein
Yes,
and given it to
yes, oh
and
my
given
God.
it to Cusack.
Oh my gosh, what a movie. So there it is. Who was everyone's least favorite president in this movie? Was it Nixon?
It's John Cusack for me. It's gonna be John Cusack.
Yeah, I didn't like John Cusack, but to make things interesting, I didn't like Alan Rickman as much as you guys either. I kept hearing the British, you know.
Yeah, the voice did throw me.
Yeah.
I think I was actually thrown off the most by Robin Williams.
Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Well, Robin Williams, he looked like Deadpool with his mask off.
Yes.
At first.
Thank you.
What?
Yeah, the hair and makeup was a little off. Also, I was convinced this movie was made far more recently than it was. I thought this was made like 3 or 4 years ago. So I was really freaked out that Robin Williams was on screen. A lot. But I guess putting that aside, yeah, it just kind of felt like late era Robin Williams, more or less the same performance he gave in Night Museum as fake Teddy Roosevelt.
Sure.
I think he was a better Teddy, though.
Oh yeah,
fake Teddy. He was fake Teddy. Fake Teddy. He was
nevertheless.
Yeah. And then, are there any performances from non-presidents that you found particularly interesting or compelling? Mine is the Redgrave. Again, is it Vanessa or Lynn?
It's Vanessa.
Vanessa. Yeah. Vanessa, I found really interesting. Well, that was my first clue in that this whole movie was going to be a bunch of cameos from really big actors. So there was that. But what I found really interesting about her character was, I think it represented or showed the normalization of these class systems, as it were, just with how the specific moment was how gentle and again normalized she was when she said to little Cecil, I'm going to teach you how to be a house servant, as it were. And the fact that she could simultaneously have so much compassion while using like such awful terminology, I think. And it just painted a very solid picture of like what this world is. And I found like she had so little screen time, but I found that character very engaging and just a really good setup for the rest of the film. So yeah, that's my person. But who stood out for everyone else?
You know what? I gotta say, I usually love Forrest Whitaker, but this is kind of like a downplayed performance. And I think they called in Forrest Whitaker because he's very good at playing a calm guy who has to yell, and it has to be an impactful yell in like one or two scenes. And like he does that very well. You know, Ghost Dog, Way of the Samurai, one of his best movies. He does it in Phone Booth. He plays a cop, and he does that in Phone Booth. One of the best movies under 90 minutes I've ever seen, Phone Booth. But, you know, Forrest Whitaker, not my favorite in this, but still a good performance. Oprah, you know, good performance. Like you guys said earlier, I was expecting worse. But Terrence Howard, I found compelling at times. And then other times, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to think he's a deadbeat or like if he's a good, like, avuncular figure to Cecil's kids. Then he was banging the kid's mom at some point. So I don't know. I will say, I don't know. I'm going to go with Coleman Domingo because when he showed up, I loved it.
Yes.
And it was a very good scene. Whenever he showed up, Coleman Domingo stole the stage.
As he always does.
Mm-hmm.
Oscar for Coleman. Jeanette, who was your favorite?
Well, let's see. Other than the powerhouse of Mariah Carey's acting, I don't know. I like Forrest Whitaker in this. It was fine. I would say more so than an acting performance. One of the characters that really got me in this, and I don't know the actor's name, but the guy who got him the job, who watched him at the party, and how like he never changed. That was bizarro world to me. Like while other people were changing, and I thought that was another really stark, like, hey, if you don't understand how American politics work, here's how it is. Some of these people have jobs for life, and they don't ever change, and that's why we need to figure it out. Like because they're not going to change.
For a raise too, like throughout the movie?
Yes, he asked him twice. He asked him once after he'd been there just a while, and he was like, hey, I heard that we're not getting paid the same, but, you know, obviously all this stuff's going on, so maybe we should. And then, 20 years later, after he'd already gotten the approval from the president. So, I thought that that character in particular really was another one of those really stark reminders in the movie of, like, hey, sometimes things don't change, and you have to make them change.
Yeah, well, that's a good segue into the next thing I wanted to ask. And this is going to be a thing I want to dig into in every movie, actually, is, and I don't even really know what this question means, but we'll find out together. What do you think this movie has to say about the institution of the presidency? Like, what picture is it painting? What are we meant to take away from it? Like,
So... like I said, I think that much like I think it's speaking about time in general, it's probably saying the same thing about the presidency, that even though time may pass, some things don't change or are very hard to change or reticent to change, and require changing, like somebody has to change them. And I thought that proved that about the presidency as well. Like, you can get a different person in there, but like it shows you many of these jobs, the butler, whoever this other guy was that had the job that got him the job, whatever, like those people don't go anywhere. So a lot of things stay the same. So you can switch in a new guy, but 75% of your atmosphere is going to stay the same. So I thought that pointed that out about the presidency, about how it can only change so much.
You know, something I find interesting is that the movie, I think, has a different meaning watching now than it did upon its release in 2013. Because, in 2013, you're at the beginning, you're still in the first year of Obama's second term. And I think the end of this film, yeah, I'm not sure if it's intentional or not, but it kind of says Obama is like a sign of the changing of the times. A lot of the problems are now solved, or at least in the process of being
Yeah.
solved. This is a big step. And I think a lot of people watching today will be like, oh, Obama had 8 years and things we're not living in a utopia. And a lot of, yeah, a lot of people would say that Obama was another business as usual candidate, a business as usual president. He wasn't the wrecking ball of progression that a lot of people thought he was at the very beginning. And I don't know. I don't know what to take away from that, but I guess at the end of this film, we're left the viewer through a modern lens is left in the position like, well, at least this guy gets to see that one day a black person rises to the highest office in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And that's certainly a changing of the times in some way, but problems are not solved yet. And there's still a lot of work to do, America and Canada and planet Earth. Yeah. So
to your effect, I feel what you're saying, kind of like the original song Imagine by John Lennon was very hopeful. It was meant to be hopeful. And then A Perfect Circle remade it in like 2010. And it was like, hey, this song's 30 years old or 40 years old and not much has changed. And the tone of the song is extremely depressing. So like, I see what you mean. Like, yeah, watching it now, it's slightly depressing because you're like, oh yeah, we were changing. It was going so well. It was great. Yeah. So I do also think, on a hopeful note, though, that this movie, like I've said many times already, points out that if you want something to change, you will have to go and change it. That even the people who love you and you love them may not even fully be on your side.
Yeah.
He was not, his dad was the main guy's not trying to hurt the civil rights movement, but he thinks that it's causing too much ruckus. It's causing too much pain and too much, right? It's not worth it, essentially. So even the people on your side may not be on your side, and then you're going to have to fight even harder. And so maybe that's where we're at right now, unfortunately, is we're in the fighting part. We're not in the sit back and get to watch the awesome things that happen part.
I hear you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was one of the things I found compelling about this film, is that it illustrated that conflict, or that question of like, if you want change to happen, how active and or how passive are you in that? And is there an argument for, well, maybe passive is the wrong word, but definitely his
complacent
stance, is like, I'm here to serve. And I really liked when Martin Luther King Jr. said that there's value in the Butler position. And then he's like, don't make fun of me. He's like, no, I'm not making fun of you. Here's one. And he spells it out. And yeah, I found that really compelling. And especially just, the conflict between Cecil and, what was the kid's name?
Lewis.
Yeah, and Lewis. Cecil and Lewis, for that exact reason of like, how do you create change? And I don't think there's necessarily an easy way, but I do appreciate that the film ended on that hopeful note. I don't know why my brain didn't immediately go to, it looked so good such a short amount of time ago, and now here we are. But maybe it's because I'm optimistic about the next election, and her, and I hope it happens.
Yeah.
So that could be it. Yeah.
And to a degree, you only had to put up with like the funny parts of the bad parts for us. You just got all the comedy out of it.
We got to watch this now.
We got tariffed. We got tariffed pretty hard.
There you go. Sure. Yeah, everybody felt the pain, I suppose.
Yeah,
there were repercussions. We were always scared.
The price of softwood lumber went through the roof, I gotta say.
Yep.
That
was not enjoyable whatsoever. Oh, okay. And I don't know if this is another thing that I want to ask about all these movies. I don't know so much if it applies to this film, but what do we feel this movie has to say about the president's role in serving the country? Like, what is this movie? What kind of argument is it making? I'm not sure, One thing that I found interesting was I kept thinking back to both The Crown as well as The Queen and all the other stuff that that guy who seems to really love the royal family has put out. More so, I think, equated with Cecil's character, about how at the beginning they say, you like, you should be invisible, act like you're not there. There's no room for politics at the White House, which was one of my favorite lines in this entire film. That whole idea that in environments of like the highest political order, there's a value to being neutral, as it were, or presenting as neutral, which I found interesting. And some of the presidents displayed that and some of them didn't. And yeah, I think that, yeah, I mean, I'm not answering my own question at all, but that was the thing that I found noteworthy. But I'm not, yeah. What do we think the movie has to say about the president in relation to serving the country?
You know, you got the ebb and flow of political cycles moving in either direction on the political spectrum. Every 4 to 8 years, it swings in another direction. And you have the White House staff, they're riding this line of best fit right in the middle. And that's what the direction of the country is, right? You know, I guess if you have big changes in either direction every 4 years, you really need to look at the little changes that are happening. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think it does point out how, like I said, how little the president can have to do with what happens. Because obviously he can have a strong opinion, and they showed that some of them did use their power to make big change. I think they showed whatever the big change was during each one's presidency, but what they don't show is like how much is decided. They did say that though. He was like, if so and so makes this decision, I'll veto it. So they were showing the power of both. Like, even though he doesn't want it, other bodies of the government can still do it. Whatever it may be, whether it's for good or for bad. So I think it showed that it's not, it can be an end all, but it's really not. Like, there's too many other thumbs in the pie.
Yeah, well, that's the scene that I found the most, I don't want to say chilling or uncomfortable, but that when Alan Rickman was saying, if Congress passes whatever, I will veto it. And it was just such a concise realization of, wow, like, if you want to, you're in the position where you can. And I think that's something that maybe I've always been aware of, that more or less anyone in that position, be it queen and or president, I don't know if the prime minister could do that. I feel like they couldn't. But
I believe the governor general can.
Governor, really?
Yeah, okay. Or the governor general, who, Jeanette, if you don't know, the governor general is the most powerful politician in terms of veto power in Canada, appointed by the royal family of England. So we don't get a say. The royal family can just quash a bill.
Governor general aren't they just the messenger, or like, can the governor general of their own accord veto
technically something? They report to the king or queen, but I believe in recent years they act on their own. Now, I suppose King Charles could call them up and like start barking orders, but I don't know.
Why is that still that way? Why do they still have a say?
Well, you guys fought for your freedom and we asked politely, so that's our deal. We got a raw deal there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's okay. I'd take some interference from England for free healthcare, or universal, not free, whatever.
Yeah,
England can have some say.
Excellent counter.
I would give back some say.
Yeah, I find, at least in my day-to-day life, of my whole life as a Canadian, mostly under Queen Elizabeth, but I guess now under King Charlie, I've never really felt their influence aside from seeing her on my money. Maybe in ways I'm not aware of.
But. There was a pyramid with an eyeball on ours, and I have no idea what that's supposed to do.
There was one occurrence a few years ago where the governor general stepped in to shut down our parliament because I think two parties were going to go into a coalition and team up. I think that might have been under Harper, but I'm not sure. Stephen Harper is the previous prime minister of this nation.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was a fun
I don't know. like you said at the beginning, if there was a movie about someone encountering Canadian prime ministers, it would kind of suck.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I don't know. Maybe Kim Coleman would be interesting.
Oh yeah, Campbell.
Or Campbell.
Yeah,
Who's Coleman? Yeah. All these names.
Coleman Domingo.
Coleman Domingo. That's the one. That's why. Yeah. Yeah. So there we go. The presidency. What a job. What a job.
What a gerb.
What a gerb. All right. Anything else we want to talk about with the Butler?
I think we did it.
Yeah.
Those cakes at the beginning of the movie looked delicious.
They looked delicious, but my thought was, are you really going to smash a window for that cake? I feel like you can get more.
Well, now there's glass and blood in the cake.
Yeah. But also, for you being this hungry, cake's not going to do it. Like, steal a chicken.
Yeah, you're going to get a tummy ache with all that
Well,
icing.
there wasn't a crumble cookie around, Matt.
There should have been. There should have been. All right. Well, time for the game. Here we go. Tonight's game is called President or Pretendsident. So I'm going to give you the title of a movie, and you have to tell me if it is about a real president or if it's about a pretendsident, a pretend fictional president.
Oh, I like this game.
Yeah. And you can get a bonus point if it is a movie about a real president and you tell me who that president is.
Okay.
Yeah.
What if I tell you the name of the fake president?
Sure. I'll give you a point for that too.
Okay, sweet.
Are you that confident in your knowledge of pretendants?
If you get the right movie, I might know.
Okay. Wait, hold on. I didn't actually.
Are we doing pen and paper?
Yeah. We're
gonna. I just have a double-sided, a president and a pretendant.
Sweet.
I feel like some of these we've already discussed tonight, so there we are. Okay, here we go. Feel free to play along in the chat as well. All three of you, actually, probably my two cats and my mom. Okay, here we go. First kid, president or pretendant?
Okay.
Answers, please, in 3, 2, 1.
I'm putting true prez.
True prez. One of you's right. It's a pretendant. Yes. I feel like Jeanette probably watched this on VHS.
Probably. It sounds like a Richie Rich era movie.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I think it's Sinbad who's like hired as.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he's a security guard.
Security guard for the first kid.
Yep.
Yeah. Next, All the President's Men.
Okay.
Answers, please, in 3, 2, 1. President.
And it's, can we tell you?
And who do we think it is?
Nixon.
Vince?
Yeah, I think it's Tricky Dick.
You're both correct. It is Tricky Dicky. There we are. Next. Sorry, I have to switch things around because I just do. Here we go. 13 days. 13 days.
I remember I remember it and I don't remember it. Okay.
Answers, please. President, true prez. All right, you are both correct. Who do we think?
I think it's JFK.
Okay, Vince.
I'm gonna say FDR.
It's JFK.
Ah.
Next, the American president. Answers, please. 3, 2, 1. We have a pretendant, fake prez. You're both correct. It's a fake prez. Can either of you name the fake president?
No.
No, I always want to call him Dave, but that's a different movie.
That's a different movie. Well, that said, how about Dick?
Okay.
Answers, please. And who is Dick?
Nixon?
Of course. Yes. I realized midway through that
They're all about Nixon.
spoiled that one, but here we go. Next, the president's lady. The president's lady. Answers, please. Pretendant, fake prez. It's a real president movie.
Is it about Jackie O?
It's not about Jackie O.
Is it about Eleanor Roosevelt?
Well, no, you had your guess. Jeanette, who do you think it's about?
I I'll say Nancy Reagan.
No, it's about Andrew Jackson.
Oh,
I
Old
wanna watch
Hickory.
that then.
Yeah, it's an old movie. I think it's like from the 1930s or the 40s, but
Oh
yeah,
man, I'll have to watch that.
you should. Next, Murder at 1600. Murder at 1600.
Okay.
Answers, please, in 3, 2, 1. Pretendsident, true prez. And who do you think it's about, Vince?
Woodrow Wilson.
Well, you're wrong on both counts. It's a
Oh.
fake president. So there we go. It's a pretendsident.
Okay.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be crazy if I was right, though?
It would be. It would be the craziest. Has anyone seen Murder at 1600? No? No? So the
It
movie...
makes me think of 13 Dead End Drive. I don't know why.
What a good game that was. So I have not seen much of Murder at 1600, but the movie opens with a scene of fornication in the Oval Office, like on this presidential seal, basically, between who we later find out is the president's son and a very nice blonde lady. And then the blonde lady ends up found murdered. She is the murder at 1600. Well, the blonde lady was my grade 9 drama teacher. And so, yeah, as soon as I started grade 9, everyone was like, did you know that she's in Murder at 1600 and she's naked and she's having sex with the president's son?
Oh,
And reportedly, if you ever, I didn't try this. If you mentioned it to her, she got really angry. So,
Well, I would guess.
yeah.
yes. Oh, look, see, my mom remembers.
It'd be
That's
funny if she was in
wonderful.
the chat, Mrs. So-and-so.
Actually,
here.
we have her right here. I brought her in all the way from Mississauga.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine? Oh my gosh. Okay, next. Barry.
Not the TV show.
No, not the TV show.
Okay.
Not Manilow.
No, not Manilow. Not Manilow.
Not Manilow. Okay.
Which president would have been? Okay.
Answers, please. Pretendsident, true president. And who do you think it's about, Vince?
I would suspect that's about Barack Hussein Obama.
You're correct. It is about Barack
Oh, really? There's a movie?
That's what they
Apparently.
called him in college. Yeah, I remember now. It came out a few years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a Netflix original. Just
Right.
purely based on the poster. It had Netflix on it.
Because he's a big Netflix exec now.
What? No.
Netflix, Spotify, absolutely. He produced Letterman's Netflix show.
Obama?
That I
Barack
did know.
Obama.
Yes.
Yeah,
Really? That's what he said?
absolutely.
Okay. Well, good for him. Do presidents get paid when they're not president anymore? Like, is there a severance package?
You get some sort of stipend, I think.
And a security detail.
I know you get the security. I think there's certain things you get,
However effective that may be.
but you actually the pay is supposed to not really be that great.
Really? You mean like
Yeah.
when you're in office, it's
It's
not
more
that?
like a
It's true.
sponsorship thing. People just do shit for you because you're who you are.
Absolutely. The real trick is that you need to make deals with massive corporations and then pass bills in their favor, and then you're set for life.
Or be rich already when you get in from nepotism. So
Or have a vice president who's in charge of Halliburton Oil Company.
Which president's that?
Oh, that's George W.
Okay.
W.
I'm learning so much. It's great.
Although
Next.
W's family was already rich. So.
Good point.
Jackie.
Oh.
Jackie. Answers,
Are you-
please.
I mean, technically, it's not. Is it about him? No, it's about her.
But it's just
President. of
Okay. So it's about Jackie and John.
yeah,
Yes.
it's got to be about
Kennedy?
JFK.
Yeah, you're both correct. It's the JFK.
Okay, I'm like, this feels too easy.
It's true. I don't know why. For whatever reason, I was like, maybe we'll just put a one-name movie. People won't realize it's Jackie O. But I don't know. There we go.
There's
Worked
only
with Barry.
Jackie,
He's-
Barry.
Lyndon. I'm waiting for Lyndon.
No, Lyndon. No, Lyndon. That said, our next one. Labudja. Labudja.
LaBudge.
Labudge. Do we okay? And who do we think it's about?
About Lyndon
I want to
Johnson?
say LBJ.
You're both correct.
I'm going out on a limb here. Who
And-
played him in that?
I think it's Ed.
Harris?
Oh, it's not Ed Harris. It's Woody Harrelson.
Oh.
Yeah. I confuse Ed Harris and Woody Harrelson. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's the H last name.
That's
the
probably
H.
what it is.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it is.
And finally, primary colors.
Okay.
Answers, please.
And I think this one's also JFK.
Vince is correct. It's a fake prez.
Oh, okay.
That's a political rom-com, isn't it?
Yeah, it's John Travolta, and it is technically a fake president, but it's very much and very obviously, as I understand it, based on Clinton.
Yes, I do remember this movie now. I'm getting it confused with a different one. Yeah, no, okay.
Yeah. So there it is. As always, I didn't think of a bonus question, but I will in a second. Oh, wait, you two are tied. 1, 2, 3.
All right.
I
This is
think.
interesting.
Nice.
Yep, you both have exactly 13 points. So, this is fascinating. I guess I'll come up with. Oh, okay. Here we go. Oh, I think I know what I'm going to do.
Why can't Jeff Goldblum play a president? I guess because no presidents have ever looked like him. I want Jeff Goldblum for president.
I want Jeff
That'd
Goldblum.
be so good.
He would play a good Lincoln. Lincoln was tall and gangly.
That's true.
He would be such a good Lincoln.
We already got the perfect Lincoln, apparently, from what's his name?
McConaughey.
Daniel Day-Lewis?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
Was McConaughey Lincoln in something?
he was in The Lincoln Lawyer. I don't know who he played though. I heard it was a
No,
bad
what?
movie.
No.
Or was that for the Lincoln car?
I don't know.
He
He,
did
I
the
think he
Lincoln
did do Lincoln.
commercials.
Yes. He did do the Lincoln commercials. Or was it Lexus? No, it was Lincoln.
No, it was definitely
right?
Lincoln.
Yeah.
You're in back of a Lincoln.
All right, here we go. Your bonus question to determine the winner will be this. How many presidents have been impeached? And name them.
Oh.
Successfully.
Oh, and name them?
Yeah.
Just
Whoever's
impeached or impeached and taken out of office?
Just impeached.
Oh, that's a lot more than that have been. Well, not a lot more, but more.
Shit. 3. I can think of 3. And if you go back to the 1800s, I couldn't name a single one.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm like, I'm sure there was somebody. I'm going to say. I'm going to say 2.
2?
Just-
Okay, and didn't you say 3?
Yeah.
Yes. You want me to name them?
Sure.
Okay. Donald J. Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And you got Bill Clinton and Dick Nixon. Right?
I think it's just Clinton and Nixon.
Well, Vince is technically correct that it's 3. So Vince wins for tonight.
Yes. I was going to say there might have been one before that time.
According to Google, and it was a very quick Google search, so this could be wrong, but it's the answer being given to me by USA.gov. So I think it's probably legit.
Yeah, probably.
No, that's my website. I owned that one. I started that during the Bush years.
Imagine if you did own that domain.
They would just take it.
They actually, yeah, they probably would.
So who's
according
the third
to
one?
USA.gov, there have been 3 presidents impeached by the House, and Nixon is not one of them.
Oh.
Yeah, because he resigned.
Ah.
He resigned. I was like, I'm wrong about this, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's the only one I could think of.
So it's Trump, Clinton, and Andrew Johnson in 1860.
Johnson.
So there was an 1800s in there, yeah.
Always.
And I can't remember what's Trump's actually been found. He's been impeached? Has he not been impeached? Has he been prosecuted? Has he not been prosecuted? Did he? I don't know what's actually been done to the man anymore.
So hang on. Was Andrew Johnson, after his impeachment, was he removed from office? Because with the other 2, they were allowed to hang around.
Yeah.
No,
I think he was. I think he was because I think the whole thing about
What's
not
the
leaving
point?
office. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, on February 24th, the House of Representatives voted 126 to 47 to impeach Johnson for high crimes and misdemeanors, detailed in 11 articles of impeachment. Was he removed though? That's the question.
Well,
Is there a movie about this? I would watch that.
These days, it's only considered a high crime if you're in certain states. Because there's a lot of states where marijuana is legal.
I was about to say, there's only certain states where you can be high for crime.
Yeah.
That was funny. Okay, well, we all learned something. Mostly me, though. Hooray! There we go. Well, anything else for this movie?
No, I'm excited for the rest of these, though, because I haven't seen a lot of these movies.
So I think next week is The American President, which was a Jeanette recommendation.
That is the one. Okay.
I'm very excited. It is evidently written by Aaron Sorkin. People have said it was like a rough draft for The West Wing. I definitely know that I love Aaron Sorkin. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to hear all the Sorkinisms, to watch people speak very clipped while they walk down halls holding coffee. Like I hope
in cars.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we will be here for that. It'll be a good time. Until then, it's that time. Everyone, tell people who you are, what you do, and closing thoughts on this film. Let's start with Vince. Vince, I'm going to solo you. There you go.
Hey guys. Hello America. My name's Vince. I'm a friendly Canadian who talks out of his ass about American politics from time to time. I'm sorry if I spread any misinformation on this fine evening. You can let me know in the comments if you think I suck. Drive up the algorithm. Let's make this happen. I run a channel called Only Time Will Tell. Like I said earlier, I've got a video about some Canadian politicians and some scummy stuff. Are any of them born out of wedlock? Possibly with a Cuban dictator involved in the mix? Who knows? Find out next time. Last time on Only Time Will Tell.
Hey guys. So I'm Jeanette. You can find me here next week for The American President. I love that movie. And you can also find me on We Like Theme Parks, but not this coming week because I was here instead and they're recording tonight. So you won't find me next week. But you should check out last week's episode. And I'm very excited for this month. I'm excited for the election. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I'm glad that I am. So yay.
Woo, yay. Thank you, Jeanette. And if you're watching, this is my channel. My name is Matt, 2 Degrees. Thank you for joining us for the first week of the Presidential Movie Marathon. Yeah, as Jeanette said, I too am very excited for these films. I'm excited to learn more about American history, about the presidency, all the things. So join us this time next week for The American President. Until then, if you want to learn kind of about American history, I did an hour-long video about Song of the South and how that sort of plays into American history. It made some people really angry, but I'd like to make more people angry. So please watch it, share it, do all the things. But until then, my name is Matt, and this has been Teacup for One. How do you end this?